We have started going through Judges, and we're going to be in Judges chapter 4. And it's interesting, Ezekiel's already done a good job of explaining how all through the Judges, you'll see where Israel, the judges raised up and they deliver them from their captives, but then they get soft and they start looking at the world again, and then God raises up a nation to take them captive and to discipline them. And then the judge comes and delivers them from that, and then they just keep this cycle going. And so we're going to look at chapter 4. We're actually going to start in verse 4. Judges chapter 4, verse 4, it says, "Now Deborah, a prophetess, the wife of Liptoth, was judging Israel at that time, and she would sit under the palm tree of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in the mountains of Ephraim, and the children of Israel came up to her for judgment." Now, I was reading that, I couldn't help with the visual. It says that she sat under the palm tree in the mountains, and all the movies show, and some of the cartoons, where you climb this high mountain and there's the wise man that's going to answer all your questions and stuff, because she's up in the mountains of Ephraim and she's judging and giving her answers to their questions, I guess. But more than that, because all through Judges, the judge wasn't like what we know as in a courtroom kind of concept, but as a deliverer. Somebody who, when they were in captivity, they would raise up and deliver the people, and then they would rule and they would settle disputes and things, but they were a deliverer. And so sometimes we get caught up with the word judges and we think of our modern day American courtroom judge, but that's not quite the same. Judges 4 verse 6 says, "Then she sent and called for Barak, the son of Amnon, from Kadesh in Naphtali, and said to him, 'Has not the Lord God of Israel commanded, go and deploy troops at Mount Tabor. Take with you 10,000 men of the sons of Naphtali and the sons of Zebulun, and against you I will deploy Sisera, I think that's how you say it, the commander of Jopin's army, with the chariots and his multitude at the river Kishon. I will deliver him into your hand.'" So it's interesting because you don't really get an idea of how long did Barak know this command. It was given to him, and this judge, she calls him out and says, "Hey, hasn't the Lord commanded you to go?" And he's obviously a leader. He's going to take 10,000 soldiers with him. And God tells him, "Hey, go to this point, and I will bring this commander, Sisera, right to you." And he hasn't gone. He hasn't done the thing, and she has to bring it up. But it's interesting because when she brings it up, "Hey, hasn't the Lord commanded you?" Verse 8, his answer really gives you this idea where they're just doing whatever's right in their own eyes. They're not really following, because his answer in verse 8, "And Barak said to her, 'If you will go with me, then I will go. But if you will not go with me, I will not go.'" And I just can't help but think of some junior high kids. "Hey, if you'll do it, I'll do it. If there's something that they've never ate before, will you taste it, I'll taste it. Just, if you'll go with me, I'll go." That concept. And then I brought it a little more closer to home, because I've been guilty of this in the past, where it's Sunday, or say it's Wednesday night and getting off work, and if I say it or Libby says it, one of us just says, "Hey, are we going tonight?" The other one's, "Oh yeah, I'm really tired." And just the idea, if you'll go, I'll go. And it's not a good plan. So quite a while back, years ago, we decided we don't ask that question. We know we're going. And so even if you're feeling tired, even if you're, "Man, it was a hard day at work," or whatever, we know that we're going. We're going to meet with the church. But this guy, his answer is in that realm. "Well, if you'll go, I'll go." He is like no concern that it was God's commandment to go. and I'm going to deliver this guy and his armies right to you. And so his answer is like that. But, sometimes we take the commandments as they're given to the church, not to me. God wasn't meaning for me, the church. And so then when you get in that kind of concept, you're starting to wonder, well, he's not talking about the walls. If he has a commandment for the church, it's us. And so when we're part of that, but this guy, Barak, his attitude seems to be, well, I don't know if it's important to go, but if you will, I'll go. We don't want to get caught up in that. Verse 9, he says, so she said, I will surely go with you. Nevertheless, there will be no glory for you in the journey you are taking. For the Lord will sell Sisera into the hand of the woman. Then Deborah arose and went with Barak to Kadesh. And Barak called Zebulun, I don't know how to say his name. Zebulun and Naphtali to Kadesh. He went up with 10,000 men under his command, and Deborah went with him. So she said, I'll go. So he just, okay, let's go. Like, it wasn't like he had made up his mind, I'm not doing what God says. But, I don't know, maybe, well, if you'll go. So she says she'll go. It's 10,000 men. Have you ever gone camping with more than one family? Like Res Camp. Look at that, the thing that we do for Res Camp, and I know we're not 10,000. Imagine the provisions, the planning to get them all there and to be in the right place. But he does it, and Deborah said to Barak, up, for this is verse 14, up, for this is the day in which the Lord has delivered Sisera into your hand. Has not the Lord gone out before you? So Barak went down from the mountain Tabar with 10,000 men following him, and the Lord routed Sisera and all his chariots and all his army with the edge of the sword before Barak. And Sisera alighted from his chariot and fled away on foot. But Barak pursued the chariots and the army as far as that town there. Say it.
Well, I don't know the first part about Hogoyim.
Hogoyim, we'll go with the second name. And all the army of Sisera fell by the edge of the sword. Not a man was left. It's interesting because when he finally goes and does the thing, God does exactly what he said he'd do. He brought them over there, and they pursued them even to other towns and took them all out, except, verse 17, however, Sisera had fled away on foot to the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber the Canaanite. For there was peace between Jabin, king of Hazor, and the house of Heber the Canaanite. So he fled. His whole army's out there being attacked, and he just jumps off his chariot and runs to where he knows there's peace. Those are friends over there, I'm going. That's the very guy that God said, hey, I'll bring him right to you. And he took off. Well, they wiped out his army, and he ran off. It says the Lord routed Sisera's army to Barak. Then they took them out, and Sisera ran to friends. It's interesting because right here is where I want to stop and think about Barak's answer of, well, if you'll go, I'll go. He's not committed. He's not really taking it as a commandment. I'm going to go do it. But he does it because she goes. But God was faithful. When he took the 10,000 troops there, God routed Sisera and his armies right there. And so even if we're him hawing around and we're not getting right to it, if we'll do what he says, he'll do what he says. He's faithful. He's going to take care of us. He's going to do the things he said. And God gave him the commandment to be there, and he routed this whole army of chariots and everything right there. And so sometimes I think he's patiently waiting for us to do what he asks us to do. But there is a day coming when judgment will be here and then it'll be too late. But in the meantime, when we see a commandment, we see a thing that God wants us to do, it's not really a good idea to just be in that willy-nilly, well, if you go, I'll go.
I'm just trying to throw out a possibility, because I don't know the answer. Did he go because he knew the judges? Or was it, well, I'm too scared and I don't really care? Or was it, I knew the faithfulness of the judges? Because, like, I don't know, because I think that connects, either way, connects to us today. Like, well, you know, res camp, well, I'll go if that person's going. You know, well, I'll go to church, oh, well, Josh isn't gonna be there this week, I don't need to. You know, like, I don't know, there's some application there for us. Whether you think the other person is faithful or not, or if you're just kind of him-hawing around, like, I think there's application there of like, okay, well, are you going because of someone else and their faithfulness, or are you going because of your lack of faithfulness? Or are you not going because, you know?
Right. Right.
Some things we gotta ask ourselves.
And our being, we might be wishy-washy. I may or may not make my decision for the right reason, but God said, if you do this, I'm gonna bring this army right to you, and I will give them to you.
Right.
So it's not even like you have to defeat them, I'm going to.
Right.
But we get wishy-washy. He told us what he would do. He would take care of us. And we get all, well, I don't know. Is Josh gonna be there? Is Ian gonna show up? So we'll get a little wishy-washy on our side, but God is faithful. God is gonna do what he said he'll do. And I think that's important that we pay attention to that. He's proven himself over and over and over that he will do what he says he'll do. And that is in our everyday life stuff, all the way to, hey, there's an end time coming and we need to be prepared, and he told us how to be prepared. And, you know, we can't be, well, I'll be faithful to God if you are. Well, I'll be added to the church in the way the scriptures tell us to be added. Well, if you do it, I'll do it.
It's like, don't take this too far, but the idea of like, there's no hand holding walking through the gates. You know, like, I understand we're all gonna enter at the same time and whatnot, but the concept of like, well, you know, you hold my hand and I'll go with you. Like,
Right.
you gotta enter on your own accord.
Right. You stand the judgment. It says it starts in the church, so you're gonna stand there. It's not, well, Ezekiel told me this. No. Did you do what I asked? So there is a judgment coming. But before we go on in the story, I want to just point out something. This next piece of this story to me is a lot of fun, and I have put a lesson together, what I call pickup lines, and this is one of the stories in it. And what is a pickup line? Oh, you guys are too quiet because you know, you don't want to say it.
Well, you're asking, so I don't know your definition.
Okay. Well, so usually you see it in the movies. It usually happens in a bar or whatever. But the guy will say the stupidest thing, like, well, "What does a nice lady like you do in a place like this?" All he's doing is breaking the ice because he's scared to death to talk to a stranger, and women are scary anyway. So he's gonna break the ice somehow, right? There's pickup lines that people use, and they're silly, and that's the point. This next part of this, I have about 3 or 4 of these kind of stories that if you tell your coworker or your family member who does not believe, does not read the scriptures, they seem to think they know what's in the scriptures because they know of Noah, they know of David and Goliath, they know Jesus walked on water, they know some big normal things, but here's a story that when you get done telling them, they'll be like, that's in the Bible? And you've done 2 things. You've convinced them they don't know everything that's in the Bible. You've also convinced them you know more than anybody else they know of what's in the Bible because they've never heard these kind of stories. So this next piece, we have Sisera has ran to his friends, right? The armies have clashed together. Barak is wiping them out, chasing down everybody, and he ran. He got out of his chariot and ran, and he comes to this town that is supposed to be peaceful and is friendly. So Judges 4:18. And Jael went out to meet Sisera and said to him, "Turn aside, my lord, turn aside to me, and do not fear." And when he had turned aside with her into the tent, she covered him with a blanket. Then he said to her, "Please give me a little water to drink, for I am thirsty." So she opened a jug of milk and gave him a drink and covered him. And he said to her, "Stand at the door of the tent, and if any man comes inquiring of you and says, 'Is there any man here?' you shall say no." Then Jael, Heber's wife, took a tent peg and took a hammer in her hand and went softly to him and drove the peg into his temple, and it went down into the ground, for he was fast asleep, weary, so he died. So that's the kind of thing when I'm gonna read the highlights so you just get this grasp. So he runs, he's going to friendly territory. Jael went out to meet him. She brings him in, he's weary and tired from running. She covers him in a blanket. He's looking for some water, he's thirsty. She opens the milk and gives him a drink and covers him up. Now, some of you know this. Well, first of all, they don't have refrigeration, so that milk is not cold like we have. It's a little bit warmer, and some of you know this. When your kids, it's time for bed, but they're living around, you give them some warm milk, they're gonna go to sleep. And she seems to know this because he asked for water, but she gave him milk and then covered him with a blanket, and he went out. And then she just crept over there and put that tent peg and nailed him to the ground. And it's an interesting situation, but she does this and becomes the hero. She ends up in a song, which is in chapter 5, if you want to turn over there, chapter 5:24. The song is bigger than this, but we're just going to grab this piece because this is where she comes out in the song. Judges 5:24. It says, "Most blessed among women is Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite. Blessed is she among women in tents. He has asked for water, she gave him milk. She brought out cream in a lordly bowl. She stretched out her hand to the tent peg, her right hand to the workman's hammer. She pounded Sisera, she pierced his head, she split and struck through the temple. At her feet he sunk, he fell, he lay still. At her feet he sank, he fell. Where he sank, there he fell dead." So they wrote a song about what she did. And I just picture her as being it's a brave situation. Now, one of the things that comes out in the song, which sometimes when you write a song, it gets a little more exaggerated, but when he asked for water, she gave him the cream of the milk. It's a little thicker and heavier, and it was a lordly bowl. I just picture this big giant, here, drink this. He went to sleep. He was already running and tired and stressed from war. And she said, "Here's a little milk," or a big bowl, lordly bowl, however, that's how the song presents it. I just think it's interesting that she did the thing, but it was told by the judge who says she's a prophetess. She said, when this war is done, you're not going to get any credit because you're going to be taken down by a woman. Get quiet.
I want to point out, who's singing the song?
I'm blank.
Verse 1 in chapter 5, Deborah and Barak.
Oh, they're both singing.
They're both singing.
I was thinking
So-
Deborah, but I thought you were going further.
No. The application here is, before, Barak seemed like, well, it's just them. If you do it, I'll do it. It kind of seems that way, that his faith is kind of not all in the command of God. But afterwards, he's singing this song. He's fine with giving the glory to someone else.
Yeah.
But also, there's a lot more in the song. And he's singing it.
Right.
Maybe an application would be, if your faith is wavering and depending on someone else and you see them be faithful, maybe change. Like, change to being that faithful. Like if you can see, okay, that person, I'm always going and I'm always encouraged and I'm always seeing them, and you know, I like hanging around them. Well, why? Because they're faithful, and maybe allow those situations to change your heart. Like,
Right.
maybe an application.
Right. Obviously, quite often we'll be jealous. Why are they getting all the glory? I took 10,000 men. But she's getting the glory. But she took out the leader that was supposed to be taken out. But he's over there, writes this song, which I think is funny. But you know, when you tell your coworkers, your family this story, especially if you just say it, you don't have to read it out to them. You just tell the story. That's what I do with my coworkers when there's somebody new and I don't know how they stand in where they're at with the Bible or not. And that's their response. That's in the Bible? And right then I know that I've kind of opened the door that they want to, wait a minute, I never knew that was in there.
How would you say your pickup line to those coworkers?
Well, I'll tell the whole story. That's the thing.
How would you do it?
Wow. I'll come up there and especially, okay, I've already established, even if they're a new person there, it's not the day they showed up, but I start to get to know them a little bit. And then I'll say, hey, I was reading in the Bible the other day. And now some of them are like, okay, you know what's coming, you know, oh, he's gonna preach Jesus to me. That's their stance a lot of times. But I'll say, there was this guy, he was supposed to take this huge army down and get, especially the leader, Sisera, I usually don't remember the names, I'll just say, this guy, the leader, and he ran off. And he's tired, and he shows up at this tent, and the lady draws him in there, and I just tell the story. And I'm usually pretty excited about it, because I like these funny stories that are throughout the scriptures. But their response to it is just like, that's in the Bible? Yeah. And it's suddenly, it's something they've never heard. They've never heard. And then I think there's a little bit of relief that I didn't just preach to them, like, you gotta come to church, or whatever. I'm telling them a story that's fun. Well, even though there's a tent peg in the head, but it's kind of a fun story, and it's odd to them. Like, I can't be in there. And there's several. And if you come to them later and you hit them with another one, you're just perking their interest. You're breaking the ice. That's why I call it a pickup line. Someday I'll do the whole lesson that has about 3 or 4 of those, and we'll talk about them. But that's the concept for me, is you take these stories and we can learn, hey, it's more important that if God commands it, let's go do it, than to be wishy-washy and like, well, if you do, I do, and all that. You can learn all that stuff. But when I see these kind of stories and it's there for a reason, I just use it. I use it for those people around me, and maybe you tell a family member or something, and then they'll tell somebody, man, this guy told me this story. They're doing your job now. They're telling the story to somebody else. But aside from that, the judges were there because Israel has fallen down, gone into captivity, and the judges come and deliver them. And this particular time, if we go on in Judges chapter 4, 22, and then as Barak pursued Sisera, Jael came out to meet him and said to him, come, I will show you the man whom you seek. And when he went in I can't read. And when he went into her tent, there lay Sisera dead with a peg in his temple. It's interesting too, as I was thinking about this, he's running to a place that's supposed to have peace and they're friends. How did Jael know to meet him, draw him in there, and put him down? Those kind of things make me also realize sometimes, and let's see examples throughout the Bible, where God uses those that aren't his Israel, or they're not his church. He'll use them in pieces of the pie, that the big thing's going on, and he'll get somebody in this, like, she's supposed to be where it's peaceful and it's good. And she calls him in there and tricks him into drinking a lordly bowl of milk, cream.
and puts him down. So it's interesting that she just knew to do that. I don't know, did an angel, it doesn't say anything how she knows. So sometimes we'll discredit things because, well, they're not part of the church, so well, God uses people. He talks about raising up nations just to discipline his children. He does things. He raised up Egypt with Joseph, and then he took down Egypt to take his people. So sometimes we don't want to get sidetracked in the fact that, well, that can't be from God because that guy's not part of the church, because that leader's not faithful. He'll raise up people and he'll take care of things the way it's supposed to be. This guy was supposed to be in that war, in that fight, and he ran, and God still got him. He couldn't get away. Questions or comments? Thoughts?
Kind of reminds me of that quote from Kung Fu Panda, where, you know, you had Oogway telling Shifu, like, about the inevitable of the main villain breaking out, and he goes and whispers under his breath, "Those that try to run from their destiny walk right into it."
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what he was doing. He was running and went right to his death. It's interesting. That concept that God will take care of it. You do your part, and God will make the thing, whatever's going on, it'll happen. Verse 23, so on that day, God subdued Japhan, king of Canaan, in the presence of the children of Israel. And the hand of the children of Israel grew stronger and stronger against Japhan, king of Canaan, until they had destroyed Japhan, king of Canaan. God told him, get 10,000 men from 2 different tribes and have them right here, and I'll deliver the enemy. And that fits verse 23 where it says, in the presence of the children of Israel. God made sure it wasn't just one witness. 10,000 soldiers went in there and they wiped out these guys right in the presence of it. God took care of it. And because of that, their confidence was high. I try to picture when they went around Jericho, those first couple of days, they're like, what are we doing? I don't care, just do it. That's what God said. Just go around Jericho day after day after day and nothing's happening. But then when it does, that confidence that, okay, God, we're doing what God said and it's going the way it's supposed to. So these 10,000 soldiers saw it. They went there, they waited in the right place. God routed them right to it. And they took it out in the presence of Israel. Sometimes I wonder if the story that's going on around us, if we shouldn't slow down and start to look and see how God is putting the pieces together. Now sometimes we don't ever see it till it's over. We'll look back 5 years ago, wow, I see how that worked now. But when we're in it, we don't necessarily see it. So I wonder if we slow down, if we could pay attention and see what God is doing, how he's working. Usually we see it in others before we see it in ourselves. And but that builds confidence. When I see the growth of a brother or sister, the Sam coming up here and teaching his first class, I was like, to me that's amazing. And I know because I was that guy that wouldn't come up here forever, not doing it, and got tricked into it. But when you see the growth of individuals, usually you see that in them before you see it yourself. But they're seeing it if you're on board, if you're doing what God asks. They're seeing it. It's happening. So we need to slow down and pay attention to what is God doing? What is going on? And remember, he doesn't have a timeline. He's outside of time. So if he takes, okay, this is going to take a few years because look at him. And he's got to grow inch by inch. But I remember the first few times when Wasey came up and taught a class, or even when the first few times people just lead a prayer or whatever, it is scary up here. And when you've never done it before, you don't want to do it. But that growth, that witness that he just said, in the presence of the children of Israel, right in the presence of his church, people are growing and moving to the next step. And it should be encouraging. And like he was talking about, Barak?
was in that concept of singing the song. He's celebrating that that army went down and their leader's down, even though he was still in the wishy-washy at the beginning. He's like, well, I'll do it if you do it. But when it happened, there's celebration that God does what he says he'll do. When he was in that mode, I will if you will. If you catch yourself in that, you need to just decide not to. I remember Libby and I were talking, and I just said, or maybe she brought it up because she's smarter than me, but that concept of we got to stop saying, "Are we going?" Because that just breeds the well, you know, I'm kind of tired. I'm not gonna go. Well, if you're not going, I'm not going. And then our kids suffer from it too, because if we don't go, back before when they were little. But that concept, if you catch yourself in that mode, what God asks us to do, he actually wants us to sing together. That means you gotta be here. He actually wants us to take the Lord's Supper together. That means you gotta be here. He wants us to study together. He wants us to encourage. Imagine, I want you to encourage, but you don't have to see each other. He wants us to be together. And so if you're in that mode, well, if you go, I'll go. You need to change that. You need to really think about what is the decision you're making? Or putting on, when I did it to Libby, I'd be like, well, are we going? The voice, the attitude, everything was, I hope you say no. And I just put her in a position to fail and say, yeah, let's just stay home. Or she did it to me several times. Just take that out. We meet together. That's what the commandments, the whole idea is to be a body. We come together. And so we don't want to be caught up in that. And Deborah did say that if I go with you, the glory of this conquest will not be for you. It'll be of this woman. And she ends up in a song. They write a whole song and put her in there about what she did and how she took care of it. And so the glory will be there in that song. We have it written right there in our Bible. That song is there to be read over and over and over by many, many people. And we just want to be on the side of, well, if God said it, I'm doing it. And that's, to me, that builds confidence in the people around you. That encourages other people. Josh says it all the time. Just being here encourages the teacher. I mean, like if you weren't here, I don't think I'd do my whole class. It just wouldn't be as good. Any other comments, questions, thoughts? I know half of us are not here because we're out of town and sick, but you guys are why? Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we just praise you and we thank you. We thank you for your word that we can read through it, to learn from it, to grow, to be a witness of what you've done in the past, knowing that you will take care of us, knowing that you keep your word, you keep your promises. We praise you for your Son and his example. We praise you for the love they show us. In Christ.